all you guys for being here. Good stuff there. Let's get the 2 super chats, and then we'll get into some personnel talk. All right. Primo sent $5 with no comment. Primo, let me find your comment. All right. Wait, Primo, this actually works out good. So he says, Z, is my Stout U hoodie a collector's item? Primo, how's this? How's this, Primo? Can you see my Stout U, J-Mac? There you go, Primo. I got the Stout U rocking right now, too, bro.
All right. Can you make me a Cooper Community College?
Yeah, there you go. That's coming next. Chris Cooper, I don't know. Chris Cooper might not even classify as a community college.
Nah, come on.
All right, you got to give him community college.
He's a fine. He's a good.
I was thinking more of like a 1 to 2 year institution. You know, the things where you get like a pseudo degree.
Oh, that's community college. Yeah, that's what.
All right, I wouldn't know.
He's he was a good player. So he knows,
play a lot of games.
He knows what he's doing. It's just a matter of
I like this. I like a JUCO. How about a JUCO, John?
JUCO, that's fine.
All right, I'll take
that's
that.
high. That's a little higher than I would say.
Oh, okay. All right, it's a little higher then. All right, here's Hollywood Hogan. What's up, Hollywood? Rest in peace, James Vanderbeek. Thank you for your amazing role in Varsity Blues as quarterback. Get checked, people. # fight cancer. # cancer awareness. I did see that. Rest in peace. That's man. 48 years old, I think he was.
Yeah, I didn't even know he was sick, so that kind of floored me. But I wasn't paying attention. Everybody knew he was sick, but me, I think. But yeah, it's sad because that was a entertaining movie. Everybody loves it.
Yeah, that's a classic. I'm not a movie guy, but Varsity Blues is a classic.
Yeah. And that, by all accounts, family man, good dude.
Yeah, 6 kids, John. That's always what kills me, man. 48 years old, 6 kids. That's
yeah. So it's always sad, and boy, yeah, way too young. Cancer's a bitch, man. Oof.
Yeah, it really is. Really is. Give your loved ones a hug. Hollywood, thanks for the super chat, brother. Appreciate it. Rest in peace to James Vanderbeek.
Johnny Moxon, the greatest backup quarterback of all time. Yeah. Maybe you think it's Nick Foles. It's Johnny Moxon in West Canaan, Texas.
There you go. Good stuff good stuff from Hogan there, and rest in peace to James Vanderbeek. John, good reference there. Appreciate everybody being here. Hit that like button. Johnny Mac, let's talk a little personnel on the offense here. All right. I know we just got into it from a little bit of a macro. I want to go a little micro here. All right. I want to look position by position. We just talked tight end. We'll get to tight end. All right. I'm going to start with the running back position. We'll get to the quarterback. We'll get to the O-line. We'll get to the receivers. We'll get to all of them. Let's start with the running back, John. You got Saquon Barkley here. You got Tank Bigsby under contract for another year. And you have a presumed scheme shift on the offense. If not a full scheme shift, at least a mild scheme shift, especially with the new offensive line coach, a new run game coordinator, a new offensive coordinator, and entire new backgrounds. How well does Saquon Barkley fit? And how well does Tank Bigsby fit? And what do you think they do with that room before the season starts? Just an early thought of maybe what could happen there. We obviously don't need to get too specific. It's February. I'm not going to ask you to say, all right, who's going to be the running backs in week 1? But I do just want to get an idea of how you think about each room. Obviously, Saquon is a highly paid player, and I don't think he's going anywhere. My question for that is more, does Saquon Barkley fit this new offense? I don't know. Your thoughts right now on the running back spot and how it might look next year.
Well, no, he doesn't. And that's why I don't think, you can just blindly do things that he's not as equipped to do as what he is equipped to do, which is more of the inside zone stuff, more of the, get the technique and fundamentals and health, more importantly than anything else, back up to speed on the offensive line. And I think the Eagles are smart enough to do that, but we're going to see. And the same thing with Tank Bigsby. Does anybody who watched the Eagles, and I know we got Eagles fans here, and most of them are going to say, well, he can do anything, blah, blah, blah can do, even Tank Bigsby. Anybody look at those guys and say, they look like really patient runners. They look like The one name you'll always hear about patience is Le'Veon Bell, who's probably the most patient runner I've ever seen. But you saw it in the Super Bowl with Walker, and it's like, allowing blocks to develop when you're going stretch and wide zone. You have to allow those guys to kick out on their angles, and sometimes you have to wait a beat, and things will open up. And you got to be very patient. Did you all see that with Saquon Barkley and Tank Bigsby? Those are guys who hit the hole. In fact, when you criticize Saquon, Tank hits the hole. But when you criticize Saquon under the prior scheme, most people say, well, he danced too much. And he didn't hit the hole because that's his strength. So, no. But again, that's to my point where if Sean Mannion's as smart and intelligent as people says, he will build around what he has in Saquon Barkley, and that'll mean more inside zone. And maybe they draft somebody in the 4th round who's more equipped, and 3 years down the road, they're running what they want to run.
3 years down the road, that's a damn eternity on the Eagles.
Yeah,
they turn over their coaching staff every year. 3 years down the road, we could have a completely different squad.
And that's why you don't build. That's why you don't hire a scheme.
Right.
We're going to be talking about that throughout the offseason. Even with Vic Fangio, obviously he's already retired twice. He's not here for the long haul, so you can't just go in hell and high water. Well, this is a big guy. Well, Vic might not even be here. So
I mean, you just said they're going to revert back to inside. The more you talk, John, about this, the more I get angry.
Well, I would say more.
Jeff Stoutland, though. I mean, you're going to revert back to that? I mean, Jeff, the point that they got where Jeff Stoutland felt the need to walk away might supersede the Sean Desai decision in Week 12 as the stupidest decision in the Nick Sirianni era.
Yeah, I disagree because, look, they did what everybody wanted them to do. They had success doing it, at least compared to what they were doing before. And I'm talking about this season when they went under center and started to have a little bit more success running the football. That was Nick Sirianni.
But that was a small sample size. That doesn't speak for the last 4 years of success.
No, it doesn't. But again, be careful what you wish for and change. Look, the Eagles think for whatever reason, and the head coach thinks that for whatever reason, teams caught up to them and they had to change. Now you can debate that, and I'll debate that with you, and I'll say maybe I think it had more to do with the health of the offensive line than teams catching up to them. I think it had more to do with that. I think if you have those monsters performing at a high level, I don't give a shit if they know what's coming. We talk about it all the time with the running game. Silly will talk it all the time with Jimmy Johnson and their 3 freaking running plays. Everybody knew what was coming. Right. Stop it. To me, the issues with the running game were solely on health and guys not playing up to their previous standard. Not about technique or fundamentals or scheme.
Well, so how do you say that not criticize them for what they've done with Jeff Stoutland?
Because Jeff, look, I mean, the guy is a legend in this town. And I don't care how grounded you are, that can go to your head. And you got two sides of the equation. He's disrespected on one side. The other side is like, you're not the fucking head coach.
You're right. They got to walk on eggshells.
It's like they wanted him back as the offensive line coach, but they felt they had to go in this direction. Maybe that direction is wrong. I think it's an overreach from, look, if Lane is healthy, if Landon's a lot of ifs, and they're back and all this stuff, they're going to be good.
I know. I mean, but we started on one position, the running back, and you correctly point out that neither of the two running backs right now really fit. So they might end up going back to inside zone. well,
there. First of all, the Rams and the Vikings and the Packers all run a lot of inside. I think people think, well, you only run outside.
Okay,
no.
So you're saying, there's going to be some nuance, basically.
Yeah,
some,
and they're going to shift more towards more inside zone than what they want to be, in my opinion, until they get to the point that where they can run it as effectively, and then they'll shift it to that. Again, but to your point, which is true, you probably don't have 3 years to get to that point. So, yeah, I mean, that's my biggest issue with all the change. I have no problem trying it, but to say they're going to do it, and if they do it and don't be malleable, I will criticize the shit out of them, because they have a bunch of guys that don't fit what they want to do right now.
Couple former backs from the Eagles, Kenny Gainwell, DeAndre Swift, feel like they would have been pretty good fits actually in this style of offense. But do you expect him to do anything with that room? Do you expect him to add a name there? Do you expect maybe Tank Bigsby to be out, or maybe they trade him or something like that to try and get maybe a second back that might fit a little bit more what they want to do better, and then you can maybe take a two-back approach into it a little bit more, or how do you maybe see it changing or not changing?
I don't think. I mean, I don't think so, because Tank's under contract, but maybe a backup. Maybe they do say, well, he was a fit for what we were doing last year, but he's not a fit for this year. Maybe, Kenny only signed a 1-year deal. Maybe you can get him back. Swift, it would be a perfect fit, but, and even Chicago, who does similar things, and he was sort of the zone stretch. They had Monungai, so they'd have 1-2 punch in their power game.
Right. Which worked really well for them.
Yeah, and Ben Johnson's a classic example, one of the new offensive guys. Well, he probably went into it and said, wow, Wright's pretty good. Let me take advantage of that guy.
Right.
And all of a sudden, Monungai becomes a thing. That's good coaches. I am mystified why everybody. But you can talk, and there's good and bad with the explosion of film guys, because a lot of them are good, a lot of them know what they're doing, and a lot of them don't. And especially when you don't have the context of asking the coaches of what they want to do and what they're trying to accomplish, there's a lot lost in the sauce, and there's way too many people who think these guys stick to the same script, and the good ones. You can say you want to do what Kyle does, but well, go get Christian freaking McCaffrey. How easy is that to do?
What a beast of a player Christian McCaffrey is.
So you have to, and he didn't, when George Kittle came out of freaking nowhere, and the same thing a little bit going on in Green Bay with Kraft, who's a hell of a player. Maybe they got Tucker Kraft in the 3rd round. Maybe they find that type of player, and then you build more around them. Then you build it up. But
any of those Rams tight ends available? They had all those guys. Are they all under contract?
I'd have to look, but they had a bunch. But even so, that's not what Sean wants to do.
Right. But it's what he did with the year.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're going to do this, they're going to do that. You better hope that's not true. Every Eagles fan in this chat listening, those 1.5 million, thank you, podcast listeners, you better hope that's not the case. I think.
We'll see what ends up happening with that. John, does Will Shipley have any role? Will he have an increased role in this new style?
He'd be the one who fits, but
Yeah,
Will hasn't shown the ability, the ability, and maybe he's better. Maybe he was ill-fitted for what they were doing before. Maybe he is. Maybe he is the guy to at least be a complimentary role because he far fits better with this philosophy than, from a trait standpoint. He's a good receiver. He's good in space. He's comfortable in space. They threw they were trying this stuff last year. All it was is all training camp. I remember a bunch of flat passes to Will Shipley. You're going to see the same thing. But when he did get his opportunities, he didn't really perform up to a tremendously high level. So it's hard to say he's going to take a step forward until he proves it. But from a trait standpoint, yeah, he would be a better fit than Tank Bigsby for what everybody wants them to do. But is he as good a runner? No. So be careful what you wish for.
I could see Howie moving on from Tank Bigsby, even if it's a trade for a 6th-round pick or 7th-round pick.
Well, if you say, well, this guy's a complete non-fit, yeah, and you go in a different direction and you draft a running back, and obviously you're not going to draft a running back high, but if you draft somebody who you think is a fit for it, yeah.
I felt like Tank had pretty good vision. Like I don't. Who do you think fits better, Tank or Saquon?
Saquon. Tank is like a million miles an hour. Tank hits the hole, which I like personally.
Yeah, right. Has some pros to it for sure. But
like he is, if anything, he's less patient than Saquon. So I mean, to me, I'm looking for a running back with patience. But I feel like I have to explain every little contextual point because everybody takes it out of context. If you want to run the scheme that everybody thinks they want to run, you need a running back with patience. I don't want that. I'd rather have a guy who hits the hole.
But that does force you to play a different style.
Yeah. Should.
Right. Well, right. Yeah, we'll see what ends up happening with the running back spot. Let's keep moving. Let's go to the offensive line. Actually, no, let's go to the receivers. We'll go to the offensive line after. John, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. Let's assume A.J.'s back just for the sake of this conversation. Jahan Dotson, I think we can assume, is gone. Johnny Wilson, Darius Cooper. We'll keep those 4 names for now. A.J., Devontae, Johnny, and Darius Cooper. How do they fit in the new offense? Are they the type of receivers that would work in this hypothetical spread West Coast type of offense that we're presuming that they're going to try and run more of? What do you see? Good fit, bad fit, no fit, need changes? What do you think of that receiving group in this new offense?
Well, AJ and Devontae can do whatever. It's not going to affect them much. The other guys,
surprised to hear you say that.
No, they're too good. They will figure it out. Now, everybody's making the hitch route comments. By the way, 32 teams use hitch routes pretty significantly, by the way, as well. So there will be hitch routes. Because in general, at least up till last year, when you have guys who win one-on-one, you tend to run on a lot of hitch routes. That's why the Eagles ran a lot of hitch routes. Problem is they didn't get open as much as although again, it's cat and mouse. It's like, are they open or is the ball not coming out? Yada, yada, yada. But they'll be fine. And then after that, I do think Darius Cooper's got some upside. And the fact that he proved that he could block a little bit, I think that helps in this offense. I think Johnny Wilson's hurt the most.
Me too.
from shifting to where they were, where it was a very, very important to have that style of receiving. You saw how important when they didn't have him this year. I think he's hurt by it. Britton Covey's obviously more of a punt returner, but he is, sort of manufactured. I think he might die if he gets hit. Britton, I love him, but that I do expect him to look for that type of player who can generate things with manufactured touches that they really haven't had. And I focused on KJ Concepcion from KC Concepcion from Texas A&M. He's that type of player. Now, some people have him first round pick. They're not going to take him in the first round. But if he falls, I could see him being the guy that they try to get. Because I think they need that player. They haven't had that player. And I think they need that style of player to make this offense a little bit more dynamic. Somebody you can throw the bubble screen to, and it's not going to be just a shit show,
Yeah, I agree. All right, so with AJ, and I certainly agree with your point that AJ is a good enough player to be able to thrive in basically any offense. That's not I would not contest that point at all. But what I might contest, John, is, this offense, normally receivers move around a lot. I know Puka's maybe a little bit of an extreme example because Sean McVay goes crazy with it and he lines them up and all over the place and runs them through the B gap. I don't think you have to do that, but they do move receivers around a lot in this scheme. When I say they, I mean anybody who's running this, spread offense scheme. Is that a fit for AJ? I feel like AJ is an outside guy, and that's where he wins. He's going to win the one-on-one battles. He's got more physicality than most. He's not the most polished route runner or the fastest guy in the world, but he's going to beat you physically. He's going to get to the spot, and he's going to win the battle when it comes to the hand, catching the football. Does this fit AJ? I don't know. I don't think it fits AJ as well as you think it fits. Walk me through your thought process.
Well, I'm not nearly as concerned with the motion. I do think that Devontae would probably be the one doing more of that, probably. Who knows? But yeah, I think people are way too hyper-focused on that. The funny thing is, again, to the point of Sean Mannion, I think you're going to have the formational tricks. You're going to do that. You're going to try to out leverage people in theory. And you don't have to do that with eye candy. I think it's and that's what McVay did this year when he switched to 13 personnel. He did it more formationally. Still did the unique stuff of releasing Puka through the offensive line at times, which doesn't happen often. I don't know if the Eagles would go that far because you need a specific type of player, and that's probably going to, I enjoy Puka. If you like football, enjoy him while you can because they're beating the shit out of him.
No, that's so true. Yeah.
So I don't think it's a long shelf life either. So, it depends what people's fantasies are. But I don't think it'll be as drastic as people think, similar to what happened with Kellen Moore. Kellen's all motion.
Well, even if you just leave motion out, what about like formationally lining up? Like AJ doesn't line up in the slot. He doesn't line up inside.
He can, he has, and he usually dominates when he does.
Yeah, it's true. It's just not a big sample size, but I'm sure he would be good at it. But like I look at a receiver like CeeDee Lamb, and like that's the guy you can move all over the place. CeeDee Lamb will line up anywhere.
Well, I think because the Eagles don't do it, and when you have done it, imagine AJ Brown against the average slot corner, which would go about the way it has gone.
Yeah, so good for them.
Taking candy from a baby, basically, if you want to throw the ball in that direction. So I mean, there's a lot of issues, but I don't think any of them start with A.J. Brown if he's back, other than the off the field stuff. Like sometimes God love him, I love the guy, but from an organizational perspective, like same thing with Stoutland. From an organizational perspective, we want to be honest. AJ's a pain in the ass from an organizational perspective.
Oh, yeah.
And Stout was turning into a pain in the ass from an organizational perspective. I mean, it's the same thing.
I know, but John, the thing that bothers me about that comment, and I'm not saying you're wrong, but put up with the pain in the ass. You got 2 Super Bowls, and you won it on the backs of the offensive line in both of them. I mean, he was the offensive line coach. You talk about it all the time. How good is the running game every year in Philly? Even with
they tried.
I mean, the only time that we've had bad years is when the offensive line struggles, and in 2020, because it was depleted with injuries. So Stoutland is basically the backbone of the team.
They tried. They tried. I mean, he didn't get fired. No matter what people want, he didn't get fired.
I think that they soft demoted him.
Right? Well, Tim McManus reported that they didn't self-demote him. He essentially said, well, if I'm not going to be the run game coordinator, I don't want the title. So they didn't self-demote him. Again, the Cheers title. The funny part is what I tried to explain is, he was never in charge of the running game, not through it all, not in 2021 and 2022 and 2023 and 2024, not in 2013 when he got here, not in 2016 when Doug Peterson took over. He's never been in charge of the running game. It's, again, one of those narratives, false narratives that people cling on to like grim death.
Forget the run game. I mean, why has the run game been so good?
Because Stoutland's a great coach. He's a phenomenal coach. But again, they got a guy going to the Hall of Fame. Note that 2 guys going to the Hall of Fame. No doubt about it. Jason Kelce, Lane Johnson. They got a left tackle who went from, and Stoutland deserves, again, that's the top bullet point on his resume,
100%.
But developmental, top 5 left tackle in the world. They have a left guard who is just a monster, and it might be over, but for 3 seasons was just an absolute monster. And again, be careful what you wish for.
Remember, he turned Mekhi Becton into a monster as well, who struggled before him.
Yeah. Now, that is my concern. That is my biggest concern without Jeff Stoutland. The developmental aspect of it. And nobody's perfect. I mean, he couldn't turn Andre Dillard into a player. Nobody could.
Yeah, right.
So nobody's 100%, but his developmental history is better than everybody else's. So that's my biggest concern. Are you going to have that same ability to take advantage of what he had? But let's be honest, man. I mean, Lane Johnson might be the best right tackle who ever lived.
I know.
And I don't say that flippantly.
Yeah, that's not.
He might be the best right tackle who ever lived. Jason Kelce's top 10 center of all time. Landon Dickerson, again, smaller sample size. He's like the Terrell Davis of left guards. It might only be for a short time, but my God.
Yeah, it was good.
I mean, talent's a big part of it. And that's your hope. Like, Chris Cooper doesn't have that kind of talent in Minnesota. He's going to have more talent here. We'll see where they are health-wise. Maybe he's better. But I wouldn't make that bet to say he's going to be better than Jeff Stoutland. I'm just saying, to the point of shelf lives, look, the guy is great, but the guy was headstrong, and the Eagles wanted to go in a different direction, which most people wanted him to go. I'm the one who thinks maybe they're taking it too far. Most people disagree with me. They wanted to go in a different direction. He wasn't on board. and he moved on.
I hope he's not too big of a loss. I understand your point, and I understand that he's not running the show and it's not his football team, but I don't want to delegitimize his importance. I think it's massive, and especially.
I don't think I'm delegitimatized.
No, I don't think you did. I don't want the narrative to become that, is what I'm saying. I don't think you delegitimized it at all. I think you're just out of context. All right, John, we kind of naturally went into the offensive line off the receiver conversation. We'll save tight end and quarterback. O-line, how do they fit this new perceived offense or expected offensive change? I mean, you just called it. Maulers, Lane Johnson, one of the best right tackles maybe of all time, maybe the best of all time. All right, Jordan Mailata, I think Jordan will be all right. And maybe there's a chance this fits Tyler Steen a little better, who's not the biggest mauler in the world. And then you have Cam Jurgens. Any one of those guys that are a clear fit or not fit for you? I think this is kind of a one of those things, John, that maybe not our chat, but maybe some people fans out there don't understand how an offensive lines, they don't always fit every scheme, or different offensive lines might work better in other schemes. How do you see the Eagles' offensive line fitting what they're trying to do here?
Well, again, it depends. Are they going to hit the square peg in a round hole? Then they don't fit. A lot of them don't fit. In the case of Landon, if he's healthy, if he's back, which we don't know. But look, if I tell you, you got a 6'8", 380-pound guy and say, "Hey, go reach block all afternoon."
Come on, man. Come on.
I mean, does it make sense to you?
No.
That's why I say all the Proctor stuff. It's like, all right, under Stoutland, yeah. I mean, I think Proctor's a perfect fit for what the Eagles were looking for. I'm not so sure it's the case now. But again, that's Howie's question. Like, what do I do? And that's why you don't hire a scheme. And my hope is the Eagles haven't hired a scheme. I might be the only one in town hoping they haven't hired a scheme. I hope they've hired a really good offensive football coach who's a natural at taking advantage of what he has at any given moment. That's what I hope.
John, you seem to have shifted, and I don't think in a bad way. I think it's because you're struggling to believe they'll make as big of a shift. Like when they hired, or when the Jeff Stoutland news broke, we did a show and you were like, well, they're changing, guys. I mean, it's clear now that they are changing the offense. Now I feel like I don't say this to like call you out, because I think we all go through a natural evolution of your first thoughts, and then you kind of sit on it, you think about it, you get more information, you talk through things. I'm sure you reach out to all of your sources and the people that you're connected with. Now I feel like you don't believe that they're actually going to switch it that much.
Well, yeah, but the reason I don't believe they're going to switch it that much is because I don't believe these guys are idiots, and I haven't met most of them. I don't believe Sean Mannion's an idiot. So I don't believe it's going to be as drastic as people think it is. But I know they're going to try. That's what I know. They're going to try, but they've tried in the past and then recalibrated. So that's where I am. It really hasn't changed. But they are hell bent on trying this time more than they were last time. By the way, just real quick, Jordan Mailata had a good season. I don't know where that comes.
Yeah, he did.
My God. I mean, he talks about, but that's Mailata. He's like, I'm not that good. He's he's that way. He's fucking awesome. And he was awesome. He was the only one who was awesome last year, but I digress. Yeah, but from the standpoint of, I just don't, and I haven't met the guy, and we won't get to meet him until May, presumably. Sean Mannion. Everybody talks so highly of him. I do not believe he's coming in here and just saying, well, I have Jordan Mailata and Landon Dickerson, and I'm just going to have them reach block all Sunday afternoon. I find that fucking hard to believe. That's all it is.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong. I find it hard to believe too, but I also don't want to deny my eyeballs. They're making some big changes.
Well, again, it's easy to make changes on paper. And then when you get in the actual lab and you try things, smart people adjust.
And where I think you're right is, I mean, if anybody remembers, and maybe this is too far, or fans and people alike have choosing to remove this from their memory, but the offseason prior to Kellen Moore's calling of the first year after he was hired, there was a lot of talk about the Eagles running a pro style offense, and which they started with, but ultimately never,
it's all over talk. Motion, this, motion. I remember.
Oh yeah, it was so big.
First press conference, because it was such a big deal. I asked Kellen about it, about his history with motion, and he talked that maybe it was the longest answer he gave all year. How he grew up with it, how important it was to him. And he saw what he had, and God bless him, he changed. Because they didn't do it that well. That, to me, is the definition of a good football. That's not an insult to Kellen Moore. That's a compliment to Kellen Moore.
I agree.
And I think the same thing is going to happen this time. I think. But that's because of what the Eagles have.
And how long do you think that might take?
I think won't take that long. I think it'll be scaled back by week 1 and scaled back more by week 4.
Week 1 scaled back?
From what they doing because I already know I could, if I had the time, I could sit down and read and write my stories in advance, because I can tell you what the narrative's going to be in OTAs and early in training camp. How much motion, how much. Literally, I mean, somebody in the chat has to remember, if they read coverage of the field, they have to remember this.
They remember it.
Maybe they don't want to remember it. But so I believe you're going to see that the entire offseason. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's what you should be doing in the offseason. It's like the old, baseball spring training has started, and you're going to see these knuckleheads that care about spring training games, and maybe a pitcher's out there trying to expand his repertoire, and he's throwing a bunch of curveballs, and he doesn't have a good curveball, and he gives up 10 runs. Nobody gives a shit. You're trying to work on stuff.
You said game 1. That's like the pitching coach coming out in inning number 1. You got 1 down and 1 man on, and the pitching coach
I'm saying, so if you're operating with the idea it's going to be Kyle Shanahan or Sean McVay's offense, which is what everybody's operating.
No,
I'm saying it's scaled back from that by week 1.
Okay, that I agree with.
And then it's scaled back even more as you go into it. That's what I'm trying to say.
And do you think at any point in the year next year we full-blown reach the Nick Sirianni offense is back in full swing?
Well, I don't even look. And people can say what they want. Nick Sirianni has a long history. That's not his fucking offense. He doesn't want to run it either.
Well, it's his offense in Philly, right? I mean, he has said that.
Well, but the point is, the 2020, even 2020, it's very similar from the entire time. Yes. But even 2021 is different from 2022, vice versa. There's been involvement, even though people refuse to acknowledge it. That the best example, ironically, was last year with going under center, which everybody loved, and now they dislike it because Jeff didn't like it, but they don't know Jeff didn't like it, so they still like it. It's bizarre, but there's been involvement, and what is the difference between 2022 and 2024? Well, the average fan will say Shane Steichen's great, Kellen Moore's great, and the other guys are stupid. It's more of the players executed and the players performed and the players played at a high level. And if the players play at a high level in 2026, everybody's going to be happy. If they don't, everybody's going to be miserable, and they're going to blame it on Nick Sirianni and Sean Mannion and Josh Grizzard and everybody else, and Chris Cooper.
All right, so quick wrap. How does the Chris Cooper-led offensive line mesh with the potential offensive change? Good, not good. Doesn't really sound like so good based on what you're.
It's all based on how healthy Landon is, and
yeah, but even if he's healthy, is he a fit? Not really, right?
Oh no, he's not a fit for what people project in their heads. But I don't think that matters. I mean, Chris Cooper's played in the league for 9 years, whatever. He's not going to go ask Landon Dickerson to go reach block for 60 minutes.
Yeah, but John, you are expecting them to change a little bit, right?
Yeah, a little bit. They're going to play more wide zone. They're not going to play as much as some other teams do because they're not equipped to do it yet. But even, it's like use the Rams for an example. When Kyron Williams is fumbling on the ball in big spots, it's usually inside. So, I mean, they run inside zone. They just run more outside, and they're more built that way. But it's not like you can just solely run it. So, the Eagles are smart enough to take advantage of what they have. But, they're, Nick's in a tough political spot. Let's be honest. He, everybody wants change. Everybody saw what happened last year. You can't run it back. So you got to play the game. You got to play the game. And by week 2, week 3, when you're actually winning, if you're winning football games, nobody's complaining. Not Jeffrey Lurie, not the fans.
That guy, Jeffrey Lurie, they showed him in the box, John, last year quite a few times.
Now, but he's not gonna turn down another Lombardi trophy.
No, he's not.
That's what I think. I think Nick, in a lot of ways, is people don't give him credit. I think he's smarter than people give him credit for. I think he knows play the game in the offseason and then go fucking win the game on Sunday, whatever it looks like. I think he's smart enough to know he's got to play the nonsense. And then when it starts, just go beat who's in front of you and everything